Good afternoon, everybody, and it's a Friday, it's a sprint weekend, and that can only mean one thing. We've got Formula One qualifying coming up for you at 4 o'clock. So, yeah, very, very busy weekend. We'll run you through our YouTube schedule. We have qualifying now, 3:50, 4 o'clock, 3:50 build up, 4 o'clock. We should be off at around 5:15, depending on whether we get through the session in an hour, whether we get any red flags. We've had a couple of red flags already today in practice this morning. And then tomorrow we'll be back 3:20 for the Formula One sprint. And then we're back to our usual time for Sunday race day, 1:35 and lights out at 2 o'clock in Styria. So it's been a busy day so far. We've had Formula 2, where Frederick Vesti took his first pole position. We had Formula 3, where Zane Maloney took his first pole position. So it's been a day of first, and maybe Formula 1 will follow that. And remember, it is still a sprint weekend, but the difference this year is that whoever qualifies fastest tonight, this afternoon, will be given the pole position award. That is changed from last year. It used to be whoever won the sprint was given the pole position award. But first of all, we're actually going to speak to Christian Horner.
Thank you very much, Ted. Set me up nicely there. Christian joins me now. And Christian, yes, we did hear from Toto Wolff earlier. If that's all right with you, I'll start with this flexi-floor issue and what came out of the commission meeting earlier on today. Are you happy with what's come out of it, first of all? Are you happy with that they're looking at a directive from Belgium onwards?
So you're talking about the technical directive?
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, a technical directive is obviously focused on this, on the bouncing and the porpoising, which only certain cars have struggled with. So I think it's due for further discussion in the technical working group, which is the correct forum for it, because obviously, as we saw at Silverstone, no cars were really affected by it. So the argument being, is it the duty of the competitor to make sure their car is safe, or is it the duty of the FIA to ensure that the competitor runs their car safely?
But to pick up on what Ted was saying it does appear that some have less bouncing because they do have a flexible part of their floor, if you like, a softer part of the floor that means that they're not affected by this.
Total rubbish.
Okay.
Total rubbish. The floor, I think we're getting issues mixed up.
Okay.
Here. So
does your floor, do you have any concerns about your floor? Because Toto said
zero.
Some of his competitors he thinks
Zero.
are doing it.
Zero. I mean, I don't know, maybe he's referring to I don't know, cars that are around him at the moment. I have no idea, but absolutely no issues or concerns on our floor.
Okay. Looking to quali, Max quick this morning, ahead of the Ferraris. He goes really well around here. Is this going to be a win in the bag this weekend? I mean, the car's looking great.
They never are. It's very tight with Ferrari again. You saw, this morning again. I think, Ferrari probably it's going to be very tight between the two of us. Of course, you don't know fuel loads and engine modes, and of course, it's a sprint race weekend as well. So, maximising points is going to be crucial on a weekend like this.
Well, the fans are certainly in for it. Thanks very much, Christian.
Thank you.
All the best this weekend. Thank you.
So, Natalie speaking there to Rachel, speaking there to Christian Horner and saying that he's not concerned about his floor, which is very, very interesting. He's not concerned about the comments that have been made about a number of cars' floors flexing to not flexing, which is making them not bounce effectively. So there is concern that maybe Red Bull and Ferrari will be in for having to change their floor. But that's up to the FIA to be investigated. It is, once again, a political conversation that I'm sure will be carried long into the season. And hopefully it will be investigated during the summer break, which is in a few weeks' time. So, yeah, it's a big talking point. And if it is true that Red Bull and Ferrari have that illegal floor on, then what happens? Do they get a penalty? Do they get points deducted and have to change the floor? You don't know, do you? So a lot of people taking it quite lightly. It is an important situation. coming about these floors. But anyway, moving on to qualifying, moving on to practice. Max Verstappen was quickest this morning by 2.5 tenths of a second over Charles Leclerc. But Max was running the soft tyre, and we don't know exactly, as Christian said, what tyre loads were being run, what fuel was being run. So, engine mode, sorry, not tyre loads. Engine mode was being run. So, yeah, there's a lot to play into it. And we have qualifying coming up in about 4.5 minutes' time. So, still not actually that far away now, qualifying. And I think we are going to... So, yes, it's time for Austrian Grand Prix qualifying. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome along to Austria for Friday qualifying and Formula One Rolex Großer Prix von Österreich. We're round 11 and Spielberg, Austria, qualifying for the sprint race tomorrow. We're at the Red Bull Ring this weekend, Red Bull Racing's home race. We've got a very short track, 4.318 kilometres, 2.268 miles, and a top speed of 338.7 kilometres an hour, 3 DRS zones, and an elevation change of 63.5 metres in the Styria Mountains. The compounder tyres we have this weekend is the softest in the Prix range. The C3 will be the hard, the C4 the soft, and the C5 the soft. And we go into this qualifying session with Carlos Sainz joining the list of pole position winners. So let's take you through the weekend format. Qualifying will be 60 minutes. F1 sprint will be 24 laps or half an hour tomorrow. Hours, sorry. And we got the race will be 71 laps or 2 hours. And they have been closely monitoring the track limits this weekend. But I mean, really, there's only 7 corners on this track. So it's very, very important that you get absolutely every single one of them spot on, because, you know, you don't... There's so much time around this short, fast and furious lap can be lost in a single corner. Some of the questions being asked is they've changed MotoGP. They changed part of the track for MotoGP. They've added the chicane down the straight, just going into turn 2, because I think MotoGP had a big accident there a few years ago. F1 will be using the original layout still, so we won't be using that chicane. That will be used, though, for MotoGP next month. So a sold-out Red Bull Ring Lent this weekend. We've been sold out pretty much everywhere we go this season, and it's so good to see F1 being popular as ever. Again, Max Verstappen's qualifying form. He was 2nd Spain, 4th in Monaco, 3rd in Azerbaijan, took pole position in Canada, and 2nd at Silverstone last time out. So he hasn't actually had... He's only had 1 pole in the last 5 races, but will you make that 2 in 6 this afternoon? He's got a very, very good record around the Red Bull Ring. He won here in 2017, 2018, 2019, and 2021. Only not winning in 2020 when we had 2 races at this track. He actually won twice in 2021. He didn't win the Styrian Grand Prix in 2020, and he didn't win the Austrian Grand Prix in 2020. That was won by Valtteri Bottas and Lewis Hamilton, respectively. And obviously the two Williams. Valtteri Bottas took his first Formula One win here in a Williams in 2014 when the Red Bull Ring made its return to the Formula One calendar. It's one of the only circuits that's had three names. It was originally, when it first opened in the 1970s, called the Österreich Ring, till 1987 when it closed. It then returned to the Formula One calendar in 1998 as the A1 Ring, before coming off again in 2003 and then returning in 2014 when it was overtaken by the Red Bull Racing brand and as the Red Bull Ring. And meanwhile, whilst we were going through all of that, Q1 has started. 18 minutes then on the clock, and the Ferrari of Charles Leclerc is already making its way out onto the circuit. And as his teammate Carlos Sainz will be joining him, and there's quite a few other cars heading out. Green flag. Then the McLaren, obviously Lando Norris, suffered that problem in FP1 earlier. He's okay for qualifying, I believe. The Aston Martin making his way out the pit lane. Sergio Perez in the Red Bull also coming out. So they want to get these banker laps in pretty early then, because obviously track conditions cooling as we get later on into the day. Obviously an hour ahead in Austria. Meanwhile, Max Verstappen is going to stay in his garage for a little while. He's going to sit tight. Meanwhile, Lando Norris has actually never finished round 11 in his Formula One career, and this weekend it's round 11. So let's hope he finishes this weekend. Esteban Ocon, who retired at Silverstone, brought out the safety car, and he played a massive part in the race, didn't it? Fernando Alonso, his teammate, still sitting in the garage. There's only about a dozen cars, maybe 10 cars out on track right now. So we'll bring you those laps as they are now coming towards the end of the lap. Very, very quick lap here. And they're about to start their flying laps. And the Ferraris are going to actually catch some traffic. The two Williams or AlphaTauris, I think that is. Can't quite see on the chat map, but the two Mercedes out on track as well. One Red Bull, two Aston Martins, one McLaren, and obviously two Ferraris of Carlos Sainz and Charles Leclerc. So Leclerc goes fastest in the first sector, but he's the first person to be setting a lap time. So as Leclerc heads down towards turn 4, and he's going to run all the way around turn 5, not really a corner, turn 5, into the double left of 6 and 7. You've got to hug the curb nice and tightly, make sure you don't go in the gravel. 6 and 7, the chicane. Once again, you've got to hug that first part of the corner, then it opens up for you. You've now got a little bit of a run, and you'll peer over the crest into turn 9. Quite a tricky corner to keep it within the track limits, and then turn 10 as well to keep it within the track limits. The Leclerc comes over the line now. It's the 106.7. Norris goes second with a 107.2. But Sainz is on a very good lap here. 2 purple sectors. Through turn 10 goes Carlos Sainz. And across the line, Sainz goes fastest by nearly 4 tenths of a second with a 106.3. While Ricciardo goes full fastest. Perez only 3rd fastest and 4.5 tenths off the pace. Albon goes 5th. Gasly goes 9th. Oh, and Sainz has just had his lap time deleted, so he's demoted to 11th. And Leclerc is currently top of the timings by 44 thousandths of a second. Hundredths of a second, sorry, from Sergio Perez. And Sainz on a slow down lap, letting other cars through. He's out on the soft tyres, is Carlos Sainz, as are all the other cars. And obviously Valtteri Bottas will start at the back of the grid because he took a new power unit. Carlos Sainz through the final corner. Did he go out to the line? It was very close. And the stewards do have the camera pointing head on, so they do have the opportunity to see. You know, they can see pulls it slow mo. You know what they have. So and Ocon goes 5th. Meanwhile, Alonso goes fastest with a 106.7. Magnussen towards the line now. He's going to go first as well by 65 hundredths of a second. So Kevin Magnussen, very good lap time there. The track is improving. Schumacher towards the line. He goes first by a 10.5. And Leclerc goes quickest again by 0.3 of a second. And World Championship leader and reigning world champion Max Verstappen graces the circuit. He's just come out of the pit lane to the delight of the Orange Army. But Sainz is setting a very quick lap. Again, he's heading towards turn 9 now. Keeps it within the track limits that time. Turn 10. Yep, in the track limits again. And Sainz only second fastest. And he's only second fastest by 0.2 of a second. So he used a set of soft compound tyres. And the flares being set off by the Orange Army and smoke bellowing over the circuit. It's Verstappen prepares for his first flying lap of the session through turn 10 and onto the start-finish straight. Going to take the ladder curb or turn 1. Well done there, Max Verstappen, making it through turn 1. It was a decent turn 1 as well. Through turn 2, the sweep of turn 2. Now the first braking point of the circuit at turn 3. It's an off-camber corner, very, very difficult. Personal best though in the first sector for the Dutchman. But DRS open for the first time of the lap into turn 4. The speed trap 198 miles an hour through turn 5. The kink of turn 5 and towards the double left-hander of 6 and 7. Keeps it out of gravel. Well done. Oh, no, he didn't. He actually just dipped the wheel in the gravel through the chicane of 6 and 7. It's not a bad lap so far from Max Verstappen towards turn 9. Meanwhile, Alonso goes quicker. And it's super quick through 9 and 10 is Max Verstappen. I think he went over the line there. He does go top by 46 hundredths of a second, but I think he might well have stepped it over the line there. Sergio Perez went second fastest, by the way. And yet that time has been deleted for track limits at turn 10. And then we're going to have a look at it. He did just go over that. And Verstappen will have to go again as we go on board with Lewis Hamilton up towards turn 3. Has he gone straight on? Yes, he has actually. He got a bit of oversteer through the corner. And Lando Norris also going off the track at turn 3. So that's clearly causing a few issues. And Magnussen going through the chicane at 6 and 7 now. 2 personal best. Hamilton sets the fastest first sector of all. And Magnussen over the line goes full fastest. Decent lap. Hamilton 70 hundredths of a second down. So he's there or thereabouts, and that would put him full fastest at this moment in time. 9 and 10 then for Lewis Hamilton. Keeps it well within the track limits, and he comes towards the line now, and he does go fastest as Lewis Hamilton by 64 hundredths of a second. Meanwhile, Guan Yu Zhou, who had that terrible accident last time out at Silverstone, is going. He's on personal best. He's currently in 18th. Zhou towards the line now. Goes 11th fastest. And Valtteri Bottas towards the line now. Bottas in 10th, and he crosses the line and he stays 10th. Albon towards the line now. Albon goes 8th fastest. Meanwhile, both Ferraris are pitted and have gone onto a new set of soft compound tyres, as Ricciardo is 17th and he's 3 tenths up on the time he needs to be, going through 6 and 7, and he's going on to turn 9 now. He's going to keep it within the track limits, within that white line. Through turn 10 goes Daniel Ricciardo. The Australian is going to go 11th fastest, and he's out of the Q1 drop zone on this Friday afternoon at Spielberg. And it's just over 5 minutes to go in the session as we go on board with the Red Bull of Max Verstappen, who's currently got no time because it was deleted, but he's just set a fastest sector of all during the first sector. So he's flying is the Red Bull right now, going towards turn 4. And through turn 5 goes Max Verstappen, fastest man of all through the first sector, coming towards the beam for the second sector through turn 6, and he's down, but he's up by 7 tenths of a second on the fastest lap time by Lewis Hamilton. Through turn 9, is he going to leave space this time on the exit of turn 10? He is, but not much. Verstappen towards the line, he does go fastest by about 2 tenths of a second. And that gets a cheer from the Orange Army. But Sainz beats it. Sainz goes quicker on a brand new set of softs. And Leclerc now beats that on the set of softs. So Verstappen 4 tenths off the place. And meanwhile, Sebastian Vettel going on his first lap, currently 20th. And the Aston Martin heading towards turn 4. So the running order so far, it's Leclerc, Sainz, Verstappen, Hamilton, Perez, Alonso, Russell, Schumacher, Ocon, Magnussen rounds out the top 10. Gasly, Bottas, Tsunoda, Ricciardo, Zhou, and the drop zone so far is Norris, Latifi, Stroll, Albon, and Vettel. So Norris in the elimination zone by about 64 hundredths of a second. So he's got a lot to do as Lando Norris, but he's on the lap now. Sebastian Vettel only 17th fastest. Lando Norris coming towards the line. Is he going to make it out Q1? Yes, he is, and into 8th position. And Verstappen just getting rolled into the back of the garage. He's got some white on his tyres. Assume like he's from the red and white curbs, and they are all preparing to go out once again. So Albon currently sits last at the moment. Stroll 19th, Latifi 18th, Vettel 17th, Zhou 16th, but remains in the pits as Guan Yu Zhou. Let's go on board with Alex Albon now through turn 9. Did he cross the line? Yes, I think he did, is the answer. Only just, though. Lance Stroll then towards the line, and he's going to go 15th. And only by 0.05 of a second. He's got 2 minutes as Lance Stroll to get to the line and start a final flying lap. Otherwise, that is his Friday evening qualifying done and dusted. And Daniel Ricciardo's worst qualifying here was 18th in 2015. As Zhou Guan Yu heads towards the line. Big final 1 minute here at Austria in Q1. And Zhou is up on the time it needs to be by 64 hundredths of a second. The driver to complete the fewest racing laps this year, but he's very much enjoying his Formula One experience very much. And Tsunoda also setting a personal best. Yuki in 14th, being told he's getting a psychologist by Helmut Marko this week. Zhou is the 10th up on the time he needs to be to get out of Q1. While Tsunoda's about to cut the beam as well, and he's 6 tenths down, so Tsunoda struggling here. But Zhou's not confident, and he's out of qualifying by 9 thousandths of a second. Tsunoda comes towards the line, only 12th fastest for Yuki. Gasly towards the line now, stays 15th. So Gasly very much at risk. Ricciardo doing 2 personal best. Ricciardo currently 18th towards the line. Daniel Ricciardo is out of qualifying and is only 16th for the sprint. Stroll comes towards the line now. Stroll is 17th. Towards the line is out of qualifying as well. Stays 17th fastest. Stroll towards the line. Vettel, 17th fastest. Gasly has made it through. And Vettel and Stroll have both lost their laps. I think Russell lost his lap, sorry. But so Vettel lost his time as well. So he's lost for the sprint. and it just isn't coming together, is it? So making it through was Leclerc, Sainz, Verstappen, Alonso, Hamilton, Perez, Russell, Norris, Magnussen, Schumacher, Bottas, Tsunoda, and the timing things just disappeared. So that's typical, but I can tell you Gasly also made it through as well. So going into Q2, poor session then from Daniel Ricciardo. It just is not coming for him, is it, this year in Formula One? And he's had quite a few bad results. And you do have to feel for him, because it just, as I said, it's not coming to him. And sometimes Formula One can be cruel, and it's being cruel to Daniel Ricciardo this year. So just waiting for the start of Q2, which will probably be in a few minutes' time. And yeah, Sky F1's just on an ad break, so we're waiting for that break to finish, and then we'll be ready to go for Q2. And remember, we're only setting the grid for the sprint tonight, not the Grand Prix itself on Sunday. So that's quite important to remember. It's also very difficult to remember that qualifying is on Friday, not Saturday. So, yeah, but we've got sprint coming up tomorrow, 24 laps or 1 hour, whichever one comes first. It's usually fast and furious, the sprint, isn't it? That's why it's called the sprint. There is debate, should it be longer? We're going to play some radio.
Sebastian Vettel.
So Vettel definitely not happy there, last in the sprint. And Fernando Alonso was fourth in that first session. That Alpine really running quite nicely this weekend. And we're actually now going to talk to Otmar Sav on the Alpine pit wall.
But it looked like Fernando did that on his last lap. He got a good lap in, and I don't think Esteban went green all the way across. So, but I don't know why. It looked like Esteban had traffic in the third sector. I think he went green, white.
Oh, thanks for clearing that up. Don't know if you can hear Martin or not, Otmar.
No, I can hear you fine, Crofty, but I couldn't hear Martin.
All right, we might have a
I'll
problem.
try again. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Yeah, don't know what happened there. So Fernando obviously seems really happy with the car lately. What have you done to it? What's the magic that's happened there?
What have we done to Fernando, or what have we done to the car?
Well, the car, I think we know Fernando. Yeah.
Yeah, so nothing in particular, Martin, apart from we've tended to upgrade the car as soon as we find something in the tunnel. And our biggest upgrade of the season came at Silverstone, and I think we're still learning it a little bit, and Fernando seems to like it.
Didn't run the soft tyres at all in the morning practice session, so we thought that there was extra pace to come. Can you explain the decision not to do that, where you think you might be able to stack up come Q3 if you get there?
Well, we did it to save soft tires for this qualifying session. And look, if we're on it and somebody makes a mistake, I think we can be, top 5, both in the top 10. But we're probably the 4th fastest team here, so it'll be tough to do that.
Just quickly, Otmar, what happened to Esteban's car in Silverstone and have you got a fix for it?
Yeah, so Esteban's car in qualifying was, remember, he had two problems. Was a finger problem, which we got on top of, and then in the race he had a failure of the high pressure fuel pump, and we hope to have a fix for it, but we're not sure we can fix the root cause, but we do have some workarounds.
Cheers, Otmar. Thanks.
So thank you there to Otmar Savers. Q2 went green as we were talking to Otmar there, or listening to Otmar talking to Sky F1. And Otmar just clearing up what that issue was for Esteban. That obviously meant he retired last time out at Silverstone. And Ferrari ending up that Q1 session, that opening session 1-2, but had to take the second set of tyres, didn't they? And that can sometimes, later in the weekend, come back to haunt you. And we're going on board with Lando Norris. Actually, a slight bit of porpoise in there in the McLaren going into the ladder curb or turn one. And helmet cam as well. And Lando Norris navigates turn 3 quite well, but he's a little bit of a way down. Meanwhile, Leclerc going quickly and Verstappen going even quicker. And Leclerc, Norris goes very wide at turn 4. And Leclerc going through 6, 5 and 6 now, and now 6 and 7. Leclerc goes quickest in the second sector, but I'm sure that time's going to be beaten by Verstappen. It is indeed, as Leclerc heads towards turn 9 now, keeps it well within the track limits. Through turn 10 goes Charles Leclerc, and he's going to go quickest by quite a comfortable margin, actually. Verstappen, though, Verstappen towards the line now goes fastest. The 105.5. Sainz towards the line, third fastest. Perez also towards the line now, 106.4. Full for Perez. Russell set the fastest first sector, goes second fastest. Hamilton towards the line now. Hamilton is going to go fastest by 30 hundredths of a second. Lewis Hamilton is faster than Max Verstappen. So Mercedes 1 and 3, 6 drivers here could potentially take pole position this afternoon. And then we're just having a look at Lando Norris locking up in to turn 4. And you go on board with Sergio Perez. Did he make it? He locked up as well at turn 4. But he got away with it a bit more than what Lando did because he didn't go as deep into the corner. So Verstappen then coming into the pits Albon making his way towards turn 4, and onto turn 5 is Alexander Albon. That was involved in that nasty incident at Silverstone last week, but he's back this week, 6th and 7. And he's half a second down on the fastest lap of the session. 1:05.538 was set by Lewis Hamilton. But Albon towards the line goes 7th fastest. Meanwhile, Esteban Ocon goes 6th. Decent lap there from Ocon. Let's go on board with Lando Norris again. Does he go off the track at turn 1? He did. Has he got a problem with that car potentially, Lando Norris? Fastest set to 1. Hamilton's going even quicker out there at the moment. He's lost a couple of attempts in the middle part of the lap. Magnussen starting his first lap of the session then. As Hamilton goes even quicker by about 0.06 of a second. So almost a tenth separates Hamilton and Verstappen. But Magnussen setting a decent lap here in the Haas, and so is Mick Schumacher. His teammate is following along behind him. Through 9 and 10 goes the Haas pair. Magnussen towards the line, goes 6th fastest. Schumacher is going to follow him on. He's actually a little bit further behind than what I thought. 9 and 10 then for Mick, the German driver who took his first points last time out at Britain. Long time waiting it was for Schumacher. Goes 6th fastest and displaces his teammate down to 7th. Valtteri Bottas in the Alfa Romeo will be next across the line, but he's heading round at turn 5 and 6 now into the 6-7 chicane. He's half a second down on Lewis Hamilton's time. The top 10 separated by under a second. It's that close this afternoon at Styria. Bottas towards the line. Valtteri Bottas 10th fastest, so he's driver at risk. At the moment is the Finland driver. But Alonso making his way through turn 6 and onto turn 7 and 8. This is a very good lap, actually, from Fernando Alonso. But Valtteri Bottas' lap has been deleted for track limits. So Bottas going... sorry, it wasn't Bottas. It was... one lap was deleted. Meanwhile, Alonso goes 6th fastest. Tsunoda through the chicane at 6 and 7, but he's down on the time. He's actually up on the time he needs to be to get to Q3. Pierre Gasly following closely behind him as well. Tsunoda towards the line now, only 13th fastest. Gasly towards the line, displaces his teammate in 13th. That's poor from the two AlphaTauris in Q2. Meanwhile, there's just over 5 minutes and 45 seconds remaining in this session. And Sergio Perez back to the pits and in 11th. So Perez is going to have to run again here. And Perez's time has been deleted. And Perez saying it feels like the car is not switching on the tyre, there's some understeer. So Perez's time was deleted and he's down to 11th. 5 minutes to go in the middle session of qualifying here on this Friday afternoon. And he's getting a new helmet, is Sergio Perez. So I think Perez put a darker visor on, probably because the sun's getting low into the sky. We're that much later in the stereo afternoon. Now the sun setting or getting lower below the mountains as Lando Norris is starting another flying nap. Of course, he's got to because he's 15th, having that mistake at turn 4. And Norris up on the time he needs to be to get to Q3. And Albon doing well to show maybe what the Williams has in store. Currently 12th fastest, but only a 10th and a half off the fastest time. Norris dipping a wheel in the gravel on the exit of turn 5. The clerk goes quickest by about 0.2 of a second. That was a 1:05.2. Hamilton coming out again. Lando Norris towards the line now. Is he going to make it out Q2? No, he's only 13th. So he's going to have to go again, is Lando Norris. Ocon. Pausing a little bit as the Alpine. Towards the line. Ocon, 9th fastest. Go 6th. Decent lap there from the Alpine driver. And Norris lost his time in turn 7. Turn 7, that's the chicane. That's the 6 and 7 chicane there. Lando has lost his time. So Norris going to have to go again here because he's currently 15th. Oh, I've listened to Lando's radio. And Lando talking about how he's scared to hit the brakes. It's interesting. Meanwhile, Albon going again. So Hamilton fastest in the first sector, really pumping out the lap times of that Mercedes. And Albon up on the time he needs to be to get out of Q2. Lots of green and purple sectors being set, but the Mercedes of Lewis Hamilton really lighting up the timing screen so far. But the next big one, Sergio Perez, only 73 hundredths up on the time he needs to be. Going to Q2. Norris off the track again at turn 1, so maybe he has got an issue with the brakes. Hamilton stayed second fastest in his lap in the end. But we're on board with Sergio Perez heading towards 6th. He had his lap time deleted for exceeding track limits, and he's only 12th fastest, but he is up on the time he needs to be as the checkered flag flies in Q2. Perez through 9 on to 10 towards the line. Is Perez going to Q3? Yes, he is. 6th fastest. Verstappen goes 2nd fastest by Leclerc leads the session by 87 hundredths of a second. Alonso currently 9th, coming towards the line. About now, is Alonso going to improve on 9th position? No, he's not. And Norris is out of qualifying. And I don't see anyone else that's going to trouble anyone in the top 10. So both Hasses in Q2, both Red Bulls in Q3, sorry, both Mercedes and both Alpines. So Mercedes did do the double attempt that they didn't put on a brand new set of tyres like everyone else did. A new set of tyres, sorry. Let's have a listen to Tsunoda. Oh, not very happy. Was it traffic? The run plan? Let's have a look. We're on board with Yuki Tsunoda now. Oh, he went off at turn 1. Actually, got a bit of oversteer. He's late on the brakes, early on the throttle, and a Formula 1 car does not like that. So, on board with Lando Norris through turn 1, it just doesn't stop. Does the McLaren. Q3 will be coming up fairly shortly, probably in about maybe 5-10 minutes time. So we've got always that little bit of the long gap between Q2 and Q3 because they've got to change, check the track and do all that kind of stuff to get the cars ready for Q3. So there's always that little bit of a gap going into the final part of qualifying on this Friday afternoon for the Austrian Grand Prix. So obviously the biggest shock in that qualifying session was the fact that Lando Norris hasn't made it through to Q3 and is 15th. So it's 15th and 16th for McLaren tomorrow for the sprint. Fortunately, they got 2 races to turn it around. Let's hear from Pierre Gasly.
Welcome back then to the red.
We didn't quite catch that radio message. back to the Red Bull Ring. The Mexican wave is starting. Coming in the high-speed corners, Charles Leclerc is fastest, and Max Verstappen is fourth. And we're going to hear from Daniel Ricciardo now with Rachel Brooks.
How tricky is it to get that bit right?
What's hard is visibility this year. You know, you don't see as much with everything around the bodywork and then over the front wheels. So, yeah, as silly as it sounds, like being precise on like a curb and on a white line, it's actually a lot trickier. So, I'd say that's one thing. A lot of the corners are fast, like turn 9. You kind of commit to the turn in, so kind of wherever you end up on the exit, you've already kind of committed to that early on. So, yeah, that's part of the reasons which make it difficult. But yeah, I don't know if I got any deleted. I don't think that was my reasons today. But yeah.
Well, Lando's just talked about the braking, not having confidence in braking at the moment as well in that car. Talk me through the issues you're having, and I mean that love flag from him just then even before it was deleted was only fractionally off yours. So what is going on?
Yeah, it's tricky. I think especially when I don't know how windy it is now. I know it's been a bit gusty, so the wind does have quite an effect on these cars as well. So that makes it tricky, and nailing it, you know, you can honestly even sometimes you get a bit of a luck, like you get a bit of a gust of a headwinds, which helps the car, and you might kind of get through a corner a tenth quicker, and simply just because the wind was in your favor. So it is very sensitive at times. But yeah, when it's kind of on that edge, and it's, I mean, obviously he's had a few issues as well now, but obviously I was just struggling a little more with that, and even on braking, just kind of finding the limit in that. So it was just a little bit in a few places, but yeah, never want to be out in Q1.
What's the feeling like in the car around here for you?
It's, I think it's probably not been anything which is, it's probably just a little bit everywhere. Like it's not something we're massively missing in high speed or anything. It's kind of just accumulated a little bit everywhere. So, and ultimately that's, you know, if you're not able to ever get
a little bit of what? If you help us understand, what you haven't got confidence in the car, you haven't got.
Yeah, it's probably, I don't even know now if it's not necessarily confidence. Like it's not like I'm getting into a corner like, oh, I'm scared, what do I do? It's just more
feel,
the ability, yeah, probably the feel and just the ability to really push it up to that edge. And obviously there's times you overshoot it, but just getting it and balancing right on the edge of that, it's a little bit, it's still a bit uncertainty. But yeah, not sure how else to explain it.
And is it particularly bad this weekend at this track?
We've obviously, it's been a very short weekend. Like we had practice and we had a few issues as well in practice to try and solve. So it hasn't really been like a long day of running, and obviously being out in Q1, it's not like, yeah, all weekend we've struggled, but of course today out of the box, we didn't feel rapid, like we didn't feel particularly quick. Yeah, I think we've just been struggling a little bit with, I don't know if it's things down to like wind or layout. I'm not too sure yet. We got obviously some homework to do, and I'll get stuck in tonight. I know obviously as frustrating Q1 is, you know, it's a long weekend now, and got sprint to get after and then the race. So certainly keep my eyes forward, and we got a long weekend.
Elbows out in the sprint.
Thank you.
So we start Q3 then. And it's just popped up on our screen that Sergio Perez has been noted for an incident at turn 11 for track limits. At turn 11. So that's that final little kink. And that's been investigated after the session. It's like turn 8 we're talking about this time. He has gone over the curb. He's through to the top 10 shootout because of... So they can't actually delete his lap time effectively. They can. All they can really do now is give him a reprimand or the grid drop, the grid penalty for Sunday. But he clearly went off the circuit. And a 3-team fight for pole position, but 5 in the top 10 shootout. $16.5 for the first sector for George Russell, but Hamilton, sorry. No, it was George Russell, sorry, but Hamilton gone even quicker and quicker than what Charles Leclerc has gone. Alonso still on the preparation lap, but Hamilton making his way through turn 5. And I think he's backed off. So did he go deep on the brakes in turn 4? Meanwhile, the Ferrari, Charles Leclerc, is arriving pretty fast on the scene, and Hamilton putting out the way quite nicely. Leclerc towards the lines can go top of the times. Verstappen set a decent first sector as well. But Sainz putting in decent sectors as well. We're looking on board with Max Verstappen and Carlos Sainz now. Sainz towards turn 10, through turn 11, towards the line goes Carlos Sainz and he's second fastest. Verstappen towards the line now goes fastest. And Perez goes 4th. Only by a 10th of a second though for Verstappen. So it isn't done yet. Schumacher lost his lap time. And Hamilton has matched Verstappen through the first sector. Hamilton had a slow middle sector. Russell going again. Currently 5th fastest is George Russell. And Hamilton is slower in the first sector. He's about 2 tenths down in the second sector as well. There's a yellow flag. Oh, Hamilton's in the wall. Hamilton's hit the barriers. It's Lewis Hamilton. And there's a red flag. And Lewis Hamilton, who could have been on pole, has crashed mean, where is that Hamilton radio? And that's a rare mistake. He's gone in rear right. Turn 7, being told, medical car deployed. And we'll see the replays of it, hopefully. He's walking away from his car. Let's see it again then. It might have started at turn 6. It does. He just goes off and skates straight to the wall, side on. It is quite a slap on the side. It does all at normal until the back end. And then that takes him straight over the gravel. He just bounces over it and straight to the scene of the accident. So he's gone for a little tailwind there, a little gust of wind. As Hamilton climbs into the medical car to go back to the pits. And we'll probably head off to the medical centre for a checkup. See, he's not got Bono with him this weekend. No, it's Hamilton either. And the session will resume at 6:05 local time. Let's have a look at the Leclerc radio. And will the stewards look at the incident between Hamilton and Leclerc? As we look at Hamilton's car, the wrecked car, should I say. We have a look at that accident again. Through turn 6, 7, it does just skate. And a side-on impact with the barriers. He is on the racing line. It just skates away from him. Hamilton radio again. Nine cars on track at once is what it could be. Two and a half minutes to go to the session restarts. Obviously 6 sprint events next year. Only seconds until Q3 restarts. $20 seconds now, really ticking down the moments till the restart in qualifying for the Formula One Rolex Groza Prix von Osterreich. Lewis Hamilton is cleared from the medical centre, discharged from the medical centre, and the clock restarts, and we are back to green flag conditions. And Hamilton walks into the Mercedes garage. He's going to walk over to his mechanics. Now, this he's just going to say I'm really sorry for wrecking the car. We're now on board with the other Mercedes, the George Russell, which of course didn't finish last time out at Silverstone. He was involved in that incident with Zhou Guan Yu and Alex Albon as well. Sebastian Vettel, Esteban Ocon involved. And Red Bull going to leave it to the last possible moment. And George Russell and Fernando Alonso already out onto the track. And Russell, through turn one. A very stiff, breezy Red Bull ring. And Russell a 10.5 down through sector one already. As Leclerc and the rest of the field and the two Red Bulls not heading out yet. They're leaving it to the last minute. Russell half a second down through the second sector. Through 9 and on to turn 10. Oh, he's gone round and it's two Mercedes in the barriers at Styria qualifying, and that is another red flag. And that is a massive repair bill for Mercedes-Benz. And we are back under the red flag conditions at Austria. And let's have a look through turn 9 onto turn 10. It's going to rear end it into the barriers. He's taken a bit too much speed into the apex, and maybe there's a gust of wind. It's just caught him out. Got a bit of oversteer through the corner. And it does. Yeah, it's just a bit of oversteer. And we've seen so many accidents like that at that corner at turn 10 in the previous years. Max Verstappen a few years ago had the same accident at that corner. Verstappen has have to be rolled back down the pit lane. He didn't quite make it out. And Alonso went up to 7th just before the red flag came out. And team radio replay.
So Russell went off at turn 10. He lost it in entry of turn 10, Russell, and spun and hit the barrier with the right corner. Going out with this set on the next. Okay. We got Russell off exit turn 10.
What does that mean?
It means we're going to box. We're going to box, and we're going to get ready to go again.
So and George Russell is under investigation for entering the track without permission. So he's probably so. George Russell, let's have a look at that accident then. And it was the same thing, as I said earlier, oversteer into the corner. And it's rear-ended the barrier. And we will resume the session in 5.5 minutes' time. And we're going to hand you over to Ted Kravitz.
That's the question. I said, did the two change setups significantly between the sessions? Remember in the pre-show, Toto Wolff said that Lewis Hamilton will be going a bit more towards George Russell's setup. Well, there's nothing Mercedes say to suggest that there was anything in the setup that would induce that bit of oversteer or make it more sensitive to the wind or anything like that. Mercedes say that they did change setups, but only to make the car faster. And this is just a consequence of both Russell and Hamilton pushing very hard with a sniff of pole position, which in itself, you've got to say, is more perhaps than Mercedes thought they were going to be challenging for when they first arrived here this morning, given their historical, the way they've historically gone around this Red Bull ring. So yeah, they thought they were in with a chance of pole position. They were just pushing hard, and don't think it's anything to do with anything with the setup specifically on that Mercedes. But both should go out. Another thing, if you weren't with us in pre-practice one and you didn't recognise that voice talking to Lewis Hamilton, it's not Peter Bono Bonington. It's Marcus Dudley, who has been Lewis's performance engineer for the last few years. Bono is back in the Mercedes factory doing his usual role, but remotely from there. But he's not at the circuit, and so Lewis has his performance engineer as his race engineer. He has Don Riefstahl, who's usually looks after the mission control back at Prix, the Mercedes factory, as his performance engineer. So that's why Hamilton has a different engineer. Next step.
So Mercedes did need the tyre warm up, didn't they? So maybe they didn't have the tyre warm up, the tyre temperature in their tyres, and didn't get the balance. So we got 3 minutes to go to the restarting qualifying. We'll hand you over back to Sky F1 and Otmar Sav is speaking to David Croft.
Tyres, are you seeing much degradation between one run and the other?
Well, let's see what happens. If there's any track evolution, we should be out there with our new tires.
But the others are playing into your hands. They're tripping over themselves. So you're neat and tidy, and you're sitting there in 6th and 7th. You probably take that.
Yeah. Starting 6th and 7th is pretty good for the pace that we have here. And you're right, our competition is somewhere behind us, so that's okay.
Otmar, thanks ever so much indeed for joining it.
So Otmar Sav speaking to Sky F1 there, and 2 minutes to go until the session restarts. And they are going to want to get to the end of the pit lane. It isn't at first, because it isn't a long track. So they should, in theory, all make it to the line if they behave themselves. It's 2 minutes 21 seconds remaining on the clock when the red flag came out. So only going to get time for one out lap and one push lap here. So it is everything to play for Verstappen on provisional pole with Charles Leclerc alongside him. Always runs well at this track in race pace, does the Dutchman. Lots of atmosphere in the Dutch grandstands for this finale in qualifying for the Austrian Grand Prix Sprint. New tyres on the Ferrari. I assume everyone's going to be putting some new softs on their car. Half a minute to go then until we get a green light. It is the two Hasses. And like I said, they're all queuing up at the end of the pit lane. And the two Hasses could actually back the field up in the pit lane here. And 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And we got the green flag back out. As expected, the two Hasses are going to take their time pulling off the line. Two minutes and 15 seconds then remain on the clock. So they should all comfortably make it to the line. Ocon radio. And it is the first time that we lost two Mercedes for a crash in a single session since Spain 2016. Obviously, they did both retire in the 2019 Austrian Grand Prix. The two Red Bulls right at the back, they said they wanted to be at the back of the field. And Verstappen close up against Sainz. So it's Perez that was last out. And Magnussen coming round to now start his lap. 1 minute 15 left on the clock, so they should all make it to the line. And is it an expectant Dutch party? But who is going to potentially be there to spoil it? Leclerc starts his lap now towards turn 1. Decent first corner for Charles Leclerc. As Verstappen now starts his lap as well. Leclerc over a tenth of a second down though through the first corner, so it's not a great first sector from Charles Leclerc. 91 hundredths of a second separate Verstappen and Leclerc. Verstappen down on the time though. He needs to be. Leclerc through the middle sector towards 5, 6 he goes. Round 6 on to 7. Leclerc is down on the time by a tenth and a half. All to the final sector for Charles Leclerc if he wants to take pole position for the Formula One sprint and the Austrian Grand Prix. 2 corners to go. Navigates turn 10 through turn 11. Charles Leclerc is on to provisional pole. So he is on to provisional pole. Sainz towards the line. Now Carlos Sainz only second fastest. So it is down to Verstappen. And he's on pole. Verstappen is on pole by 29 hundredths of a second. Perez can't do anything to deny him. And it is 2 poles. 3 poles consecutively at the Red Bull Ring for Max Verstappen. By 29 thousandths of a second and less than a tenth of a second. Separates the top 3. So the final order for Q3 is Max Verstappen, Charles Leclerc, Carlos Sainz, Sergio Perez, George Russell, Esteban Ocon, Kevin Magnussen, Mick Schumacher, Fernando Alonso, and Lewis Hamilton is in 10th. As Verstappen is on pole and assistant to his radio. Not bad, says Max Verstappen. The Red Bull team weren't too delighted with that, actually. They didn't sound too elated. They know it's a long weekend to come. And it's Verstappen 1, Leclerc 2, Sainz 3. And a 1:04.9 for Verstappen this year. 1:03.7 was the pole time for the Austrian Grand Prix last year. .2 seconds slower and 25 plus kilograms heavier than last year. Well, that's it for qualifying in Austria. Formula One returns tomorrow for the Austrian Grand Prix sprint. We'll see you then when Formula